Folks, the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is in the United States for 3 days of high-stakes meetings with the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump. Now, it's been lots of tensions between the United States and South Africa. Now, from South Africa's side, it's all been the United States, accusing them of racism, accusing them of genocide. Donald Trump taking the side of white Afrikaner farmers there in South Africa, lying about farmers being killed over land, just lies, lies, lies. You've had Secretary of State Marco Rubio attacking the South African United States ambassador, refusing to allow him to be in the country. And so it has been all sorts of things. Now, while the White House really hasn't released a detailed schedule, Ramaphosa's office has said the focus will be in reframing economic and commercial ties with the United States. Of course, tariffs are on the table. You got massive cuts. Donald Trump has ordered in resources to South Africa. And so all these things are happening. Johanna Leblanc is a partner at Adomi Advisory Group. She joins us right now. Johanna, glad to have you here. And this is, I mean, look, from the South African president's standpoint, he needs the United States, but also what he can't do, though, is give the impression that he is capitulating to this lying thug, Donald Trump.
I think the meeting between the president of South Africa and President Donald Trump is one that is needed. And I think that it shouldn't just be a photo op. It should be an opportunity to discuss commercial related matters. Because I don't think President Ramaphosa should even waste his time to even discuss the issue around the Afrikaners who are granted refugee status into the United States, because I think that the U.S. has its position, and certainly President Ramaphosa has its position, and the international community also has its position, and it appears to be some level of discrepancy as to what's really happening on the ground and this administration's position as to what's happening in South Africa as it relates to white South Africaners. But I think instead, President Ramaphosa is in a great position of leverage. You're talking about a country that holds the keys to some of the world's most critical minerals that are needed in order to advance our world forward. So there, that's a position of leverage to negotiate what some of those what are some of those deals around those critical minerals would look like in South Africa. But more importantly, before we even got to the issue of the white South Africaners, I think that South Africa and the United States have been at odds when it comes to a number of other policy issues. One of them is South Africa's court case before the ICJ, claiming that Israel is committing genocide in Palestine. Another one is MTN, which is a telecommunications company headquartered in South Africa that has ties to Iran, a state that is considered to be state-sponsored state by the United States government, and also to the issue around Starlink. Elon Musk's claim that he is unable to conduct a business or to secure a contract in South Africa because he's a black man. Because he's a white man, when in fact the issue is that there's a 30% local rule that Elon Musk feels as though he should not have to adhere to, and he feels as though the rule is discriminatory. But the reason why the rule was put in place to begin with is because of the cruel history of the apartheid system in South Africa, where Black South Africans were robbed of their land, their resources, right? And so and also murdered and kidnapped and so on. So in order to address some of those systemic racist policies in the country, the South African government has put in place certain policies similar to affirmative action or diversity and inclusion programs that we have here in America. But I think nonetheless, President Ramaphosa is in a very good place to negotiate with this administration around trade-related matters, certainly, and definitely the critical minerals that we talked about earlier.
And look, first, it's not a difference of opinion when it comes to what these white farmers are dealing with. It's lies. It's lies from Donald Trump. It's lies from the United States. He's been lying and saying white farmers are being killed left and right. He's a liar. So South Africa is like you're having to prove a negative because you got an individual who's a liar.
Yeah, but I think that this administration's position on this matter is not going to change, irrespective of what President Ramaphosa presents to the government, to the Trump administration. So I think that for the sake of diplomacy, it is best that President Ramaphosa does focus on trade-related matters that will bring about even better economic conditions to the people of South Africa, and also to make sure that the conversation is one that is productive and one that will respect South Africa's sovereignty. And certainly South Africa's domestic policies and definitely South Africa's rule of law in the country. Because, when you are a head of state and you are able to meet with your counterpart, right, there are a number of things on the table that could be discussed. But you really have to sit down and assess to see which discussions are even worth having, right? And I think this one about the white South Afrikaners is one that is not a necessary conversation for President Ramaphosa to have with President Trump. Now, will President Trump bring it up? Possibly. I don't know.
Yes. Come on, Johanna. He's going to bring it up. He's going to bring it up. That's going to happen.
Well, one thing I will say is that we saw what happened between the meeting, during the meeting between Zelensky and President Trump a couple months ago. And I'll tell you this, Roland, the whole world has been watching, has been waiting in anticipation of this meeting between these two leaders because they're wondering, will there be another showdown between the two leaders? So everyone is watching in anticipation. But one thing I can tell you is that I've been in rooms with President Ramaphosa. He is one that is very diplomatic, very charismatic, and there is no denying that I think he's going to handle himself very well. But there are some concerns about how this meeting could potentially be embarrassing for South Africa. So we all here are anticipating this meeting.
You can bank on Donald Trump will do all he can to embarrass South Africa. Just go ahead and write it down. It's etched in stone. Johanna, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Bringing my panel, Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney, joining us from Los Angeles. Randy Bryan, entrepreneur, author of Never Says, 25 Phrases You Should Never Ever Say to Keep Your Job and Friends. Out of D.C., Candace Kelly, legal analyst and host, Not All Hood, out of South Orange, New Jersey. We'll start with you, Candace. Listen, we know what this thug is going to do. We know he's going to bring up the farmers. He's going to bring it up. He's going to attack South Africa for going after Israel when it comes to genocide in Gaza, all those different things. That's going to happen. And so let's just be real clear. There's nothing about Donald Trump that says diplomacy unless you are an oil state and you're kissing his ass, giving him wonderful trinkets.
Listen, when he sits down with people and have this authority and this capacity, there's always going to be a major exchange that he wants. And if that doesn't happen, if he doesn't get his way, then there's going to be a fight. I'm just interested in seeing if this president with his command, with his presence, with all of the charm that he has when he enters a room, as she was just talking about, what will happen if things go wrong? I would imagine that if something was put on the table where it ends up like other people, like Zelensky in his position, I don't think it will go quite the same way. I do not think that this man is going to let Donald Trump win. So it's something that I'm certainly going to be looking forward to, especially not just the content, but kind of the nature and the dynamics of what's going on between these two men.
No, absolutely. Joe, we know who's going to be the idiot in any conversation. I mean, look, he showed his ass when the Canadian prime minister was here, just straight lying.
Yeah, and you've got to be wise. The point that was made before, and even in the interview, if you've got, the South African president is very wise. He understands where he sits, and he probably understands what would benefit America that South Africa actually has and can do. And so my sense is that he's going to do what he can to get to the point. He'll make the points that he needs to, for sure, but also at the same time, give Donald Trump the potential to make a deal. See, because here's the thing about Donald Trump. Donald Trump will talk all day long about making a deal, and he wants to make a deal, but it's an artificial finish line in that it's not always a good deal. Okay. And so I think that the South African president will probably think about a couple things. First of all, the deal that he may want that may benefit his people, and also saving face with his own people. Zelensky was saving face and continuing to have the support of his own people, which is why he had to do things the way he had to do them. And so my sense is the South African president will think of the same thing. Donald Trump may find, to the point made, that he's a little bit different than Zelensky in some ways. But the question is how far we get, or how much we have to go through, and how much stuff we have to muddle through until they get to the point where they actually have a productive and useful conversation. South African president will be there for it, to have it, right? But he's got common sense, and he might be smarter. I think he's smarter, than our president, which you have to be anyway. And so he, I'm certain, has a good idea what his goals are for him and his country, and he'll do what he needs to do to get there.
Randy?
And the South African president does know what his goals are, as Joe was saying, but he also now he's very aware of Trump's personality. He has seen how he's engaged with other world leaders. So I would think that he's coming in prepared for the dance that he will have to do with Trump. He knows that Trump will try to present a story that we know is not true, and show that his country is different than he knows his country to be. I think that he will actually stand up and tell the truth about what is actually happening in South Africa. They fought very hard to get rid of apartheid, although it's only been, since early 1990s. And they don't want it to seem as if now there is this actual reverse racism happening that Trump is trying to suggest. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, first of all, we all know that this notion of reverse racism is BS, Candace. Elon Musk wants to act like, oh my God, they're discriminating against me because I'm white. I mean, his whining is just really pathetic. And what white people like Elon Musk don't want to own up to, they don't want to own up to that the racist in South Africa wants to still control everything. And the ANC is like, no, y'all are going to have to sit here. We have to endure apartheid for so long. Yeah, this is the remedy because of your racism, of your mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles stealing this country from black people.
Well, listen, Roland, it's the same argument that we're making here over the United States of America. We need to right the wrongs and kind of push through a system that where everybody, once they take part, it ends up unfairly to those who it kind of, falls upon. So this is the exact same thing that we are seeing. Groups of people trying to change history, and then the Black South Africans coming in and saying, no, you need to understand what it is. It's a learning process, and it's something that people, when they try to change history, they're going to get more pushback. They're going to get more pushback from groups. They're going to hear more about that. The same thing that is going on in the United States is going on in South Africa. Interestingly enough, history similar, outcome similar, how we are trying to recover is similar too. So it's no surprise about where this is going to go. I think what's very interesting is that we are finding ourselves in the same position with, again, similar passive history and racism, and how we have to continue to turn our wheels and go out of our way to correct what somebody else has done. So it will be very interesting to see how this meeting turns out.
But Joe, the difference is white people run this country, black people control South Africa, the political apparatus in South Africa.
Yeah, the political apparatus is different for sure, no doubt about that. And because the political apparatus is different, they can move toward equity, which ought to be a shared goal, which is a worthy goal, which is a morally correct goal, and they can do that. The other thing that I think I would say that Donald Trump has to be scared of is even more, he might not be so worried, interestingly, he might not be so worried about having an argument with a black man that's smarter than him, right? Because you don't have to be smarter as a black man to have certain people look at you and judge you to be inferior based on, despite the fact you look at the Trump and the Trump administration and you see competence issues everywhere. You see what they complex or purport to be DEI, that's actually the DEI as they define it. You see that. But what I don't think he wants to do is I don't think he wants to have an argument and a back and forth with the white Afrikaners themselves, right? There are people in that country that are saying, no, Donald Trump, you're wrong. That's not what's happening here, okay? And so if you're having an argument with a bunch of folks that look like Elon Musk, now you have a little bit of a different situation. You're not going to just be able to put a quote black face, a quote DEI face, a quote minority face on this whole thing, and now it is consistent with and helps your narrative back in the States. The reason why he's doing this is that it helps his narrative here, but it doesn't help his narrative here if people there that are white and that look like him are speaking against it. So he has to be really careful about that.
Well, I really do hope, Randy, that the South African president does not hold back and will not tolerate having this idiot try to embarrass him on the international stage.
I don't think that we are going to be disappointed. Like I said earlier, I think that he is prepared. He understands that, generally worldwide, there are some white people who are having temper tantrums just because we are trying to make things right. Like that's what DEI was about. I love the quote that always says that for people who are accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And so because we're trying to right the wrongs of the past and make things equal here in America and in South Africa, you have some people like Donald Trump claiming that others are being oppressed, which that's not what's happening at all. And I believe the president of South Africa is going to make that quite clear.
And this is the president of South Africa, actually at the UN.
Good to see you. Are you well?
Good to see you, Mr. President. What are you most looking forward in terms of making a deal with President Trump?
Oh,
we get a handshake there?
Yes, we get a handshake.
Yes, Mr. President. And how are you ready for the handshake with Trump? What's going to be your icebreaker?
Well, we're always ready. We're hoping to have really good discussions with President Trump.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.